Out of these 6 diagnostics, muscular endurance is definitely what I'm most proud of, achieving 72 push-ups in 1 minute. I do aim to reach 100 push-ups, but anything above my initial record is considered a success to me.
Muscular endurance is how well a muscle group is able to perform under being fatigued.
Whether or not that fatigue derives from repeated movements and exercises or cardio, this form of endurance depends on an individual's overall strength and cardiovascularity and how long it can be maintained for.
As I had stated previously, achieving any more push-ups than my initial record is a success to me, but I do aim to strive to reach to 100 push-ups.
And I'll be doing that by following a 6-week training program revolved around training my chest muscles. With that training program, it consists of Monday being my first chest workout, then Wednesday being the push-up test, which is going to be for 1 minute, then Friday being my second chest workout. With the training chest sessions being at the start of the week, near the end of the week, it gives enough time for my pectoral muscles to be fully rested and ready for the push-up test in the middle of the week, which can be seen here. In order to achieve more push-ups, I'll be focusing on the tension that is involved when doing a bench press. I'll begin the chest session with a bit of stretching and then start with the heaviest weight I can do, and then just keep slightly deloading the weight down from there until I can't push it no more. And depending on how well I can hold that tension when doing a bench press, slightly deloading the weight each set, I believe that it correlates to how well I can maintain tension when I'm near the end of my push-ups. I also want to make the statement that if I can do more on a bench press, more weight, it means I can do more push-ups. Deloading the weight of each set while doing a bench press will effectively demonstrate progressive overload. This means I'll be able to bench press more weight and perform more reps over time through following this program consistently. Although I did not achieve my initial record, 72, this doesn't necessarily mean I got weaker. It's only 4 less push-ups. I just happened to not pace myself correctly. This is the first week of my push-up testing, and I can take notes on my first week's test for the other remaining weeks ahead of me to further reach my goal. I didn't have enough storage on my phone, unfortunately. Some exercises recordings weren't saved. It isn't a major issue since all that really needs to be recorded is the bench deload sets, as they're a crucial part to this program. The only thing I have to reflect on with my first week of the training program is my push-ups test. I found it a bit disappointing with myself that I was able to only do 68 rather than 72. But the truth is, results aren't made overnight. I know that if I stick to the program, I'm able to achieve more push-ups in 1 minute. So we'll see next week. Before the second week's progression is shown, it's important to mention that I've decided to cut out movement that isn't me pushing away weight from myself in the recordings of each week. It's not that I'm not doing them. It's just that I believe it's more important to show the actual pushing exercises which are intended to help me achieve more push-ups. Despite it only being the second week of my training program, I found myself to be quite proud of how I've demonstrated my strength. I can tell with each of my workouts that I've definitely gotten stronger. I can say for a fact that I know that this is due to progressive overload. Taking weight off for each set has developed more strength in my pectoral muscles when performing a bench press. I'd like to bring up my hypothesis from week 1 once again. I stated that if I'm able to do more weight on a bench press, it will equivalent to how many push-ups I can do. Considering the fact that my personal record on bench is now 100 kilos and before it was 90 kilos, it's now reasonable enough to have faith in my hypothesis that I will indeed be able to do more push-ups because of the strength that I gain through progressive overload. Right at the start of the session, I'm able to do 4 reps of 90 kilograms on bench. Keep in mind that 90 kilograms used to be my personal record on bench.
Through following this training program over time consistently, it's clear to see that my strength has gradually increased.
Because we're going now.
Simon, what do you need?
My mum interrupted me. It is a tragedy, and I thought I'd never have to encounter that kind of barrier or obstacle throughout my entire training program. Even though this happened, that's no excuse to not do the push-ups. So here we go. During this week of my training program, this week was not my proudest. Both of the chest days were not as efficient. Since during the first chest day, the whole gym was packed, I barely got to use what I wanted to. And as for my second chest day, which was on the screen just before, I had a random pain in my right pec. My theory to this as to why is maybe I'm just benching too much. Maybe I'm just putting too much pressure on myself. Too much volume basically with my benching program. Although results have been made through progressive overload, I'd rather just avoid injury entirely. What I'd like to talk about as well is my push-up test this week. I scored 77 and the week before that was 75. However, I wasn't interrupted. I was 15 push-ups in and I do feel like that did fatigue me later on when I tried to do the push-ups again. I did have a bit of a rest period before then, but I still felt like I could have definitely done more than 77. Going back to my theory before about how I said if I can do more on a bench, it means I can do more push-ups. First bench I did this week was 2 sets of 100 kilograms on bench. Doesn't mean I add the 15 push-ups to my 77 record. I just had to mark it down to 77 this week. But I do believe that I definitely could have done more if I weren't had been interrupted. So in order to back this up, next week, my final week, I will definitely get a higher score. Because 15 plus 77 would equal 92 push-ups. So from here, I'm just going to focus on recovery for my final push-ups testing for my final week of the training program. For my final week of my training program, I did not do a second chest training session. This is because my push-up test is usually in the middle of the week, in between both of my chest days. As you may have just seen, I hit 95 push-ups in 1 minute. However, I kept going after the timer had went off, because I needed to prove something to myself that I could reach 100. Even then, I only hit 99. Even though I've tremendously made progress in my push-ups, I can't help but feel disappointed. Whether or not I did succeed in reaching 100 or above my initial amount isn't the point here. The point is to talk about how I've ended up here. My deload bench program and my theory that a higher bench will equal higher push-ups were both proven to be true. Here is a graph that I have made composed of all the push-ups I did throughout each week. My initial record was 72, and right at the beginning of my first week of my training program, there was a slight decline. I don't have a definitive reason as to why this is, besides the fact that I just didn't pace myself correctly. And my body and my muscles just weren't adapted yet to this kind of training so early on. I didn't let this discourage me too hard. I still stayed consistent and determined. With these chest training sessions a part of my training program, I would start off by stretching and then go on to do some bench press. I would start off with my personal record and then reduce the weight by 10 kilos each set. I would continue to do this until I reached failure and the weight couldn't be lifted up anymore. These training sessions were extremely thought out and well planned. If I was able to do more weight than the previous week or do more reps, this meant that not only progress was made, but it meant that I was able to do more push-ups now. There would be a 1-day rest period before I would test my push-ups again. followed by another day of rest before my next chest day. I had perfectly designed and set up my training program to allow my muscles to have enough rest time. In week 3, I had climbed out of that slight decline. I come to the realization that I was indeed progressive overloading and becoming stronger, and I consider the week after that in week 4 to be my true peak. I had reached 82 push-ups. I felt like that my body had truly adapted to this kind of training, doing heavy sets of bench and pumping out as many push-ups as I can for 1 minute each week. However, yet again, there was another decline. This wasn't due to the same reason as before, or the fact that my mom had interrupted me. In my 5th week, I had unfortunately encountered some barriers. The gym was packed and I wasn't able to access any of the machines or training equipment that I needed to use. With the second chest training session of my 5th week, I didn't even get to train bench properly. I had gotten a sharp pain in my right pec and I decided to end it right there. I'd rather avoid injury entirely than not be able to do any push-ups. Despite the fact that week 5 didn't produce any impressive results, it didn't mean that my training program was inefficient and needed to be changed. It was just a series of unfortunate events. I am extremely proud of myself that I've gone from 72 push-ups to 92 push-ups. Even though I was not able to do 100 push-ups in 1 minute, I'm now able to do 20 more push-ups and 102 kilos of bench. I never thought I couldn't even do 100 in my life. In my opinion, I've made tremendous progress throughout these 5 weeks. As an individual who goes to the gym frequently, I can't help but feel more determined to continue benching and keep this mindset that I'm able to do anything if I put my mind to it. I enjoyed struggling and putting in the hard work for this assignment.